Here we go.
It's Wednesday evening. You're listening to Mystic Moon Cafe with Wendy Schindler and Travis Short. Every week, we will interview guests that are experts in various fields of the supernatural, paranormal, unexplained, and esoteric. So sit back and let us take you on a journey to educate, enlighten, and entertain as we broaden your horizons. Now, here's your hosts, Wendy Schindler and Travis Short.
And it's us, your hosts, Wendy Schindler and Travis Short. Travis?
Hey, Wendy.
Hey, Travis.
I'm here.
You had me going there for a second. Okay.
I had you spooked, didn't I?
You had me spooked. I thought, oh crap, we're haunted again. Or something.
Nah. Not this time.
Right. Yeah, I was listening to that Ross Raposo show and Paranormal King, and he was, going on, and they were talking about what they did to cleanse things and when they had problems on their radio shows and whatnot. And I said, yeah, we just call Bill Bean on and he scares it all away.
Exactly.
Yeah, right?
Bill performs deliverance.
Yep.
All is good with the world.
That's right. And our internet.
It's as good as PB&J.
That's right. P, B, and J.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
J, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been one of those weeks and one of those days. How about with you? What's going on in the great state of misery?
We're probably about to get hit by storms again.
Again?
Again, right? And
What's up with that?
I don't know. We had a heck of a little storm earlier today, and then it cleared off really fast. They're all really fast moving, and they moved on up and got in there and were attacking Justin, I believe. So poor Justin got the...
Oh, Justin.
Yeah.
He had it coming. He deserved it.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that's just so mean.
I'm joking. That was mean.
That was
mean.
was
just a little on the mean side. That was. I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he might have deserved it. He might have. Yeah.
He might. He might. Let's see. I was going to say real quickly.
Yes.
Jill should have received her book sometime this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
For those listening, we did a giveaway a couple weeks ago with Nick Redfern. We gave away 2 copies of his book, 365 Days of UFOs. And Jill, I cannot remember Jill's last name, even though I just mailed her book. Straub,
yes. Seth's girlfriend.
Jill Straub.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Seth. She should have her book. I did a tracking on Denise Pridemore's book, who was the other winner, and hers should be to her on Saturday.
Okay.
So those I did get to track, and they should be good. So hopefully Jill is already enjoying 365 days.
365 days of UFOs.
UFOs,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Funny thing, I had gone out and gotten a quick 6-pack of beer, Summer Shandy by Line and Kugel. I'll go ahead and give them a plug because it is my most favorite beer. But I put one in the freezer for about 30 minutes, and I had a beer slushy when it came out of there.
Can you get those at like the convenience stores there in Kansas City, Missouri?
Beer slushy or Line and
Yeah, we have beer slushies.
Oh.
That would be just really if you could.
Well, a one of those sinful secrets from your past. Went to the ballpark with cousins and friends and things, and we had beers, and we had those chocolate malt thingies, those frozen chocolate malt thingies. And so it was so hot, we combined them. And wow, that was good.
That's just not right.
You would think so. You would think it would be really, really wrong, but maybe it was just because it was so hot and we were probably getting dehydrated anyway, and you know how that goes. Probably was. But it would have been in the Royals' heyday, so, the game was good.
When was that?
84, 85. And then I think last year they were the world champions. I lose track. I don't pay a lot of attention to it anymore.
Oh, that's pretty funny. That is pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I did not pick up a 6-pack. I did, however, pick up a small bottle of cognac because that was what Andrea had recommended as the Mystic Moon mixer for the evening, our cocktail highlights. I have a very small bottle of a cognac. I've poured a glass of that. For me, it's just a little too hot of a weather for a brandy.
Okay.
That's more of a wintertime drink for me. So, but I did get that, and then I picked up a bottle of wine, which I will pop open here very shortly.
Mm-hmm.
So,
no, I just can't quite make myself do those hard whiskey, cognac, brandy type things. It's a little too much for my own personal palate. So, I'm a girl. I can drink a girl drink. So there.
You're a windy lady.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. I don't do the harder drinks that much anymore. I had my heyday with those,
mm-hmm.
I was on a first name basis with Jack, Jim, Johnny, Jose. That was my inner circle.
Mm-hmm.
Captain, not his first name, of course, but yeah,
right,
but,
right. Well, no, I still enjoy the Captain. That's one I can do okay and be all right with.
But
okay,
so
Carly's gonna.
Oh,
sorry.
No, that's fine. I was just going to say I'm typically more of a beer wine drinker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Carly's going to drink some tequila rose in a few minutes.
Ah.
Mm-hmm. I've heard about it, but I'm still not sure what it is. I forget. You know me, my memory's so flippin' bad these days. Unless I'm nagging you about something, right?
Which you do all the time.
It's my job.
All the time.
It's my job.
But you made it more of a passion in life than a job, really.
Well, I got to pick on somebody.
Oh, speaking of, you were mentioning your mind being on the fritz. How's your foot and your toes?
They're kind of swollen, actually really swollen, but not much pain, and doing pretty much okay.
Did you ever reach that point where because you had said that when you break a bone or something, you don't have pain early on, it comes later. Did you ever reach that point where you had the hellacious pain?
Oh, yes. But it didn't last very long. Just about a day.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I was just curious.
I'm able to get through it with just, Aleve and Tylenol, so I'm tough. That's what they tell me. I'm just tough.
You're a brave woman.
I'm brave. And a total badass sometimes, when my toes aren't broken.
That I can. I see a t-shirt. I'm a real badass when my toes aren't broken.
That's right. Ooh, maybe with the world's most interesting man doing it or something.
That would work. Yes,
mm-hmm.
That would work very well. Oh, I want to give a shout out to the artist today who did our new logo.
Lorraine Van Tonder, yes, out of South Africa. She's an Afrikaner.
I know, we're international.
Yes, we are, completely.
She's African. She's African. You say she's Afrikaner?
She's an Afrikaner. That's what she speaks. She told me.
What is wrong with you?
No. I think she's one of those English white ladies that live down there in South Africa, and that makes them Afrikaners.
Afrikaners? Well, I can say this. She is an extremely gifted artist.
Yes, extremely. Absolutely.
She really is.
Look for her
on
Facebook.
Love what she did.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And the name of her page again? I forgot it. It's got a really cool art. What?
Oh, somebody is messaging me pictures of what they're drinking. I won't say who.
And who?
But what a pretty pink color. Kind of looks like strawberry milk or something.
Oh, that just sounds nasty.
Oh, it looks interesting.
Okay, I'll take your word for it. Facebook.com/Lorraine Van Tonder Digital Art. That's her page. Yes. People can go and like her work. And they can check out our new logo on our Facebook page, Mystic Moon Cafe.
Well, I do have it up on the Mystic Moon Cafe on Spreaker. That page, but it's not. It doesn't come across as the on the our Mystic Moon Mafia network. We'll have to work on something for that as well.
Yeah, we'll take care of that. Mm-hmm. But she did an excellent job and very quick turnaround. I was really impressed with how quickly she got that artwork together.
Oh, definitely, yes. Oh, her Facebook page is called Ren Katrin, but it is Lorraine Van Tonder.
Ah, okay.
Works.
Yeah. And now you were telling me she is one of the artists that Carly McCracken uses through Crimson Cloak Publishing, which they have a show on Mystic Moon Mafia.
Yes.
And so that's kind of how we and I say we as in the greater universal we in air quotes. I had absolutely nothing to do with it except going, ooh, I really like that.
Well, as your producer, I have to produce something occasionally that's worth looking at. So I worked on it.
No, the term that you used today was it producer extraordinaire?
Yes, yep. That's what I thought, Carly. Lorraine is Crimson Cloak Publishing's graphic design manager.
Graphic design manager extraordinaire.
Excuse me.
I think if we start adding extraordinaire after everything, it will actually become much better.
I think you may be correct.
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
So, radio show producer extraordinaire.
Yes, dear.
Graphics manager extraordinaire.
Extraordinaire.
Co-host sidekick extraordinaire.
Mm-hmm.
I just think if you add that, it lends a certain amount of credibility that we don't normally have.
Okay. That was Andrea. She's messaging. She's stepping outside for a moment, but she'll have her phone with her, so call whenever ready.
We will do that. We will get her on because we have a great guest tonight, Andrea Perron, who has been with us several times.
Mm-hmm.
When we were on our previous platform. Got her back on tonight. Going to be a very good show. She's always entertaining. She's always fun. We've got Bill Bean coming on next week. Talked to Bill yesterday, as a matter of fact. He does have us on his calendar. It doesn't matter where he's going to be in the country. He said he will do the show. So
till he cancels Monday. Mm-hmm.
Till he cancels at the last minute. I know. But Bill will come back on. We'll talk Dark Force. We'll talk Delivered. And then, of course, we'll talk the Mandela Effect. Very interesting new theory. Bill has kind of come to the forefront of this new conspiracy theory. Mm-hmm. He actually, about a month or so ago, was in my area. He was just across the state line in Tennessee, in Greenville, Tennessee, doing a whole presentation to a church there about the Mandela Effect. He's been in touch with several of the publishing companies of the King James Bible, pointing out to them the discrepancies, the changes that seem to be taking place in this publication. Very interesting stuff. So he'll be on talking about that. And then the week after, Bill, you're going to have to help me out because I draw blanks sometimes.
I understand that, but so do I, so I wrote them down. Now I just have to find the page I wrote it down on. It's right here. It's right here on this little tablet. Here we go. On 5/24, we will have Kim Douthit. She's an actress. She does a lot of workshops with colleges and younger school-aged kids for acting and what have you. She's fully involved in Spooked in Seattle and does. I know she does their ghost tour and a whole bunch of other work with them. I don't have her full bio in front of me, but I think she'll be a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And then on 6/7, we have Becky Ray from Ghosts A Go-Go, and that's basically an open mic. People go up and tell their ghost stories. And she's really fun, very interesting. Very cool. She knows the history on the lands, and that's one of her favorite parts to do. But she's had a few fun encounters of her own, so that's
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Very good, very good. And then the week after, on June 14th, we have Nick Redfern coming back on to talk about his new book on the UFO crash at Roswell.
Correct. That'll be fun.
And I know I know that because I just booked that one. So that's how I know that one. I booked that one.
So, book them, Dano.
But I think it's really cool because we have gotten to the point where authors and their publicists are reaching out to us, and that's what happened with Nick this time. This publicist reached out to me directly to let me know that the new book was coming out and that Nick wanted to come back on the show. So I think that's really cool.
Are they actually sending us the books this time, or?
Oh, hell if I know. I mean, they say they are.
Okay.
I figure whatever they send, if it's the wrong book, we'll do another giveaway. But yes, they are. What I have requested, because I actually did take your advice, I requested hard copies of the book. But I also requested the PDF so that if we don't get the book in time, well, we should have the PDF. Now, I did that towards the end of last week, and we have yet to receive anything. So it's really kind of a crapshoot at this point.
Per usual, yes.
Yes, per usual, it's just kind of a crapshoot.
It is, yes.
So, but looking forward to having him on, and we're still working. We're trying to get Cammie Anderson and Richard Estep back on to discuss The Haunting at Asylum 49. We're trying to get a few other great folks lined up to join us on the program through the summer months. A little harder to get people in the summer months. Everybody's got vacations. They're running around and doing things, but I think we can make it work.
I think we can. But there's a lot of people putting books out, so
they do. We took a little bit of a hiatus over the summer and played some repeats. We're going to try not to do that this summer. Right. Try to stay live every week as much as possible. As close as live as I am. Well, as close to live as I am.
Well, I was going to let it go, but since you said it, okay.
Well, Ooh, that's a good cognac.
Ooh.
But just a little too heavy and a little... But anyway.
Did it light your belly on fire?
It did.
I see. It did.
Yeah, toasty tummy.
Okay.
But we're excited to have Andrea on. We want to hear more about her trilogy, her book, what's going on in her world, what's going on in her life. I know where she is. I'm thinking she's still in Georgia, but I don't know. I know the last time that I heard about her, Susan Bell had bumped into her in Los Angeles. And Susan Bell is supposed to be popping either in the chat room there at Spreaker or maybe on Facebook chat. I'm not exactly sure. But
okay.
But I talked to Susan this afternoon, and she said she was going to try to pop in the second hour.
Okay, cool, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, if you're on Facebook, you might shoot her a quick message and remind her.
Which one? Susan?
Yes, Susan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me see what I can do. I'm not right now, but I can be.
Okay. I have it up, but that's a different keyboard, and I don't want to get too many things going here and confuse myself.
What, you don't want to multitask?
I am multitasking. I don't want to add more to it.
Oh, I see. So you're one of those slacker multitaskers.
Apparently so, yes.
Extraordinaire.
Extraordinaire. Don't forget that part. All right. Well, I believe we'll play Devil Within by Digital Digits or something like that. I know it's digital, but other than a D, I can't see anymore.
Digital midgets? What'd you say?
Yes, digital midgets. Oh my word!
As opposed to analog midgets.
Dakota, I want you to bite Travis. Can you do that? I'll give you a Scooby snack. Well, his eyes got bigger, but he didn't say anything. So
he's in Virginia. That's a really long walk. I don't think I'm up to it.
Poor old guy. Yep. All right. Anyway, we'll get the song going, and then I will see if I can get Andrea on the phone, and Travis will bring her on.
How long do we have on the song?
I will keep quiet. You won't even know I'm here. You won't suspect a thing. You won't see me in the mirror. But I've crept into your heart. You can't make me disappear.
Devil Within. Digital damsels, maybe. I'll go with damsels. It's a D. Hi, guys.
Hey, Wendy.
Hi, Wendy.
Hello.
Guess who I've got on the line with me?
Froggy from our gang.
Damn it, you're right. You are so sharp.
I am sharp.
I thought it was Pollyanna.
Pollyanna.
I'm confused now. Who am I supposed to be?
You told on me, Wendy. Shame on you.
You just be you, Andrea, and we'll be great.
Yes, we will.
It just means that I'm very sweet. That's all that means.
Okay.
Well, it does, and always,
Well, then it does
always
fit
right
perfectly.
there. Yeah, I mean, always right there. We have those guests sometimes. They're, you have to remind them that we're calling. But you're always right there. Just like on top of everything. So, it's kind of annoying a little bit. You're like the perfect guest extraordinaire, which we have this running joke right now that we're adding extraordinaire on as the modifier to everything we say now.
Mm-hmm.
Wendy called herself the producer extraordinaire today, so we're attaching that to everything.
I think that's a perfect word choice, a wonderful description.
Mm-hmm. There's a song conduit in the chat room, and it says, Andrea, you're Polly?
Say that again, honey?
In our little chat room, there's someone named Son Conduit, and they're asking, Andrea, you're Polly?
Sure.
Polyandria.
If we say so.
Polyandria. That's perfect, Conduit. Perfect.
Polyandria.
Mm-hmm.
That is.
Yeah, it is. And it's better than what some of my tribe calls me. There are several of them that call me Annie McFanny. And I could live without that.
I can understand.
Whenever anybody screws up my name, I say, don't worry, I've been called worse. And it's true. So, fine.
Oh, yeah.
So now, we were talking just real briefly while the song was finishing. You're in Georgia right now. The last time that I'd actually heard anything about you before you and I kind of reconnected, Susan Bell, who's going to be trying to listen in the second hour, had bumped into you in Los Angeles, I think, at a film event.
Yes. I was out there meeting with my producers. I'm writing the screenplay and have a deal for all 3 of my books to be made into films, with 3 casts of children to cover the 10 years that we lived at the farm.
Very cool.
So there'll be
it was
different cast for each movie.
Yeah, it was so funny because Susan was talking about how that she was there, basically doing the same thing. She was meeting with some producers and backers and funding, and she said, I literally backed into someone and I turned around to say I'm sorry, and she goes, it's Andrea.
I know. But we all know, there's no such thing as a coincidence. Susan and I were supposed to be together that day.
Yes.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, it was wonderful. I had my attorney with me. I had 2 producers. My father was with me. And I was meeting a couple of other people. We were meeting a couple of other people. And there's big things happening around this project. I've kept it relatively quiet. People know it's coming to some extent, but the man who's going to be backing this is so world famous that I have agreed to let him be the one to announce that he's producing the movies and will be playing my father.
That's incredible.
Fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is. And now we kind of are getting ahead of ourselves. Of course, this is a new platform. We've got new listeners. Actually, Wendy and I have been very pleased with the change that we made going from the old platform to this new one, Spreaker. It seems to be much easier for people to find us. We have a lot more live listens. We have a lot more downloads. And I know I know that you bring your tribe with you every time that you have a program. So I know we've got a lot of people that are very familiar with your story. But I know there's also people that are listening who don't really know the Andrea Perron story other than what they have seen in, of course, James Wan's film The Conjuring, which was loosely based on the case files of Ed and Lorraine Warren, but did depict your family and the farmhouse that you moved into. And for those who have seen that movie, you are in that film the oldest daughter out of the five, and you moved into that farmhouse with your parents. I kind of want to approach this two ways. I want to, kind of have you give your version of what happened, basically at where the movie picked up, and kind of do that. And then after we have that, so everybody kind of has a primer and a foundation, I want to work our way back and get more in depth into that story and talk about your books, House of Darkness, House of Light, which is a trilogy that tells the. I don't want to say the real story, because I don't want to throw any shade at The Conjuring and James Wan or the Warrens or anything like that, but it gives a first-hand perspective of the people who actually lived it from the beginning to the end. So I want to kind of...
It really is a collective memoir. It really is the combination of all seven of us in that book. If you want to refer to it as something that you don't consider disparaging to the film, just describe it as the whole true story of the decade that they lived at the farm.
So, kind of like I said, give everyone, let's give a snapshot and lay the foundation, the way that kind of as the movie presented it, and just kind of talk about you guys moving into the farm, what got you there, the farm itself, and the occurrences that took place. Mm-hmm. And then, like I said, I want to work back, and I want to work backwards from there and really start filling in, because there's a lot of, because we've had you on before, we've talked. There's a lot of gaps. There's a lot of holes in the story. A lot of things that kind of mesh and cross lines, and truth gets blurred for Hollywood sensationalism. And I want to kind of paint that picture. But you're so much more than just the oldest daughter from the Perron family having lived through that. There's so much more depth and breadth to the person that is Andrea Perron, and I really want to talk about some of your other endeavors. And then really want to see if we can get you to make the announcement about the movie before this famous person does it, because I'm good at that. I can get you to do that on the show. I will break you.
Andrea, I can mute his microphone at any point in time. Just give me the signal.
Okay, if you hear me say the word chrysanthemum, mute him.
I got it. Chrysanthemum.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, we're going to have a great time. It'll be wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
I'm very, very, so deeply spiritually connected with my sister, and, dealing with all of this, it has, in some ways, it has just broken my heart wide open. I've never felt more love for my fellow human being. I've never felt more connected in the universe than I do. And in our family, the healing that has taken place between my mother and father is just amazing. After all these years, losing a child is a profound experience, and no parent should ever have to bury their child. No, it's just proof that life's not fair. But there's a gift in this too. In fact, there have been several. So I'm absolutely ready to do an interview and speak my heart.
Good.
Wonderful. And both Wendy and I do want to say we're very sorry about the loss of your sister April.
Thank you.
Yes. There's a thought question in the chat room: did the house there get flooded out? Was there a lot of flooding in the area, but it was left okay? It didn't get washed away or anything?
But the old farmhouse? No,
yes,
the farmhouse is fine.
Okay, good. Yes. Conduit is correct. Breaking Andrea isn't going to happen because you're very strong.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I guess I can't add guest breaker extraordinaire to my title tonight. So,
no, but I can add ball breaker extraordinaire if I need to. So
and you do on a regular basis. And thank you for it. And cheers with my last. Andrea, I have to say, I did pick up a small bottle of cognac, which was your recommendation for the Mystic Moon mixer. So I'm sipping on my cognac. I have to say it's a little hot and a little heavy for this time of year. I'm much more of a winter kind of drink next to the fire, but
it will make sweat. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, it is. But so now, in the movie The Conjuring, and I want to use that as the springboard. You guys, as a family, buy this farmhouse, and move there. Almost, the movie portrays it as a fresh start, that you guys are starting over. But what was the real impetus for the family buying the farmhouse, and when did you as a family, and especially you as an individual, notice that there were some things not quite right about this place?
Well, we really started moving in mind to a new place at least a year or two before my mother actually found the farm, because my mother kept saying, I want out of here. I want to raise my kids in a place in the country. And we heard that over and over again until she actually went and found the place in the country. And it was precipitated by a series of very unfortunate events that occurred, which is why my first volume begins well before we moved to the farm, so that my reader can not only meet my entire family as we were a perfectly normal family, a suburban family, living in Cumberland, Rhode Island, and then watch the transformation occur as we became a paranormal family. And our first contact, I think I was the first one. I'm not positive, but I think I was the first one to see an apparition in the house. And it was within moments of pulling up to the front of the house on January 11th, 1971. My parents had bought the house in December 1970, and we moved a few weeks later. And I saw a full-body apparition standing in the dining room that appeared perfectly human, warm-blooded, and alive to me. Absolutely. I said good morning to him as I walked past him. And then my sister Nancy saw him disappear right before her eyes. And that was the beginning for us. And 4 of the 5 children saw him that day. My mother and father did not see him. Mr. Kenyon did not see him, who was the owner of the house who had sold it to us. And he was moving out as we were moving in.
Now, that was the more benevolent entity in the house, correct?
That was what, Wendy?
The more benevolent entity?
Yeah.
There in the house?
Yeah, he was harmless, absolutely harmless. And we saw him over and over and over again for 10 years. And in fact, in the books, I describe him as a peripheral member of the family. Mm-hmm. He watched over us. He was just there. And my sister Nancy named him Manny because he was a man, and she was only 10, and that made sense to her at that time. Mm-hmm. But we think he was probably Johnny Arnold, who was a man in his mid-40s who crawled up in the eaves in the second floor of the house in my bedroom and drank a bottle of horse liniment, most likely to try to get drunk. And he drank too much of it, and it killed him.
Goodness.
Wow. I'm glad that was not the suggestion for the cocktail tonight.
Yeah, horse liniment's never a good idea. I don't care what the alcohol content.
Not good.
No, not remotely.
Not good at all. Now, this is one of the first areas where we see a little bit of a difference in the movie, because the movie really does only portray the one main entity, Bathsheba, which I really love your take on that particular entity. There were other peripheral entities in the movie that had done harm to themselves, and that haunted you. This particular benevolent entity, didn't make its way into the Conjuring film, but a lot didn't. There's a lot of things that did not make it into that film, and I find the very title of your book, House of Darkness, House of Light, implies there was both good and bad things going on there.
Yes, it was. It was a wonderful place to live. I mean, we couldn't have asked for a more beautiful place to live. And having 200 acres as your playground is just amazing. I mean, there's really no words to describe the natural beauty that we were connected to there. And we had many pleasant experiences, including with the spirits. And then there were some very negative things that happened as well. And yes, that is the direct implication of the duality of life, house of darkness, house of light. You know, that's what life is. It's good and evil, and there is a duality that cannot be denied. And even though these are intangible concepts, they manifest in form through human behavior and through any number of other ways. It's just the nature of our reality. So should have been expected that there would be, we grew up in that house and have many, many happy family memories from there. Mm-hmm. So yes, it is. I try to achieve that certain balance, and the film did as well, because the film, it does capture elements of our story, and it paints it in very broad strokes. Good conquers evil, love conquers fear, the Perron family had an extreme haunting that they all survived. Those are the impressions that people are left with. But it's so much more than that. That movie was designed to spotlight the career of Ed and Lorraine Warren, to set up a series of films that would address some of their most compelling cases that they investigated during the course of their careers. So it wasn't really, they had access to the books. They had access to all of that. And they just cherry-picked it and wrote their own third story that was literally conjured in the minds of two screenwriters who were trying to placate Hollywood. That is pretty much still method and formula, and there has to be an exorcism, and there has to be blood, and there has to be, and it's like, nah, there really doesn't have to be that. I'm going to show the world how to make films that tell the truth, that are compelling and honest and gut-wrenching and phenomenal and horrific and mind-blowing without altering anything of the truth.
And it can be done.
It can be done.
It can be done. The right concept in the hands of the right director and producer and creative team, it can be done.
Yeah.
It does. You do not have to sell out. I've had this conversation with Bill Bean, and I've had this conversation with clients that wanted, reality TV shows, especially the paranormal investigators. And, you really, when it comes to Hollywood, you have to make up your mind. Are you willing to sell the concept and let them do what they want with it, and you have no creative control or say, or do you want the truth told? And that really is, those are two very distinct roads that you have to take.
I want the truth told. I just want the real story out in the world, because people were left with impressions from The Conjuring that simply weren't true.
Right.
And they deserve to know the truth. And if they're not willing to invest the countless hours that it takes to read 1,500 pages over 3 books, then I want at least for them to have an impression left from the film that these are, and Paranormal Witness did an episode around our family, and they did a pretty good job. They stuck pretty close to the truth, but they really barely scratched the surface. We're talking about making anywhere between 6 to 7 hours of film, 3 movies that will, and even though I'm having to cut out an enormous amount to tell the story, even in a screenplay format, it will give them a very clear concept of what happened, how we were affected by it, and how it ultimately changed all of our lives for the better to have gone through it. It is a very hopeful, very uplifting, very inspiring story, I think. And, countless people around the globe think the same thing. So I struck a nerve and strummed a chord with these books. And I get letters from my readers all the time, constantly, telling me basically the same thing. I feel like I moved there with you, that in the reading of these books, I lived all of these experiences with you. I feel absolutely attached to your family, connected in inexplicable ways. I tell everybody what happened to me in my life now when I spent my whole life telling no one what my paranormal experiences were, and now I am free and liberated to do so because your family did. This is more than I could ever have asked for or could have ever expected. I'm so thrilled that it has been so well received, but there's more to tell, and I think that it can be best captured in film that will leave an indelible imprint on the mind of anyone who sees these films.
Well, I think, every author, when they do that process of creativity and they write that book, whether it's a novel or whether it's a memoir or whether it's a work of fiction or nonfiction, I think especially writers today, they do already begin seeing it evolve to that next level. And I think that's, creation and creativity is a natural evolutionary process. You have, the written book, and then you had audio books, and then you have the books being turned into films or TV shows, and because for one reason, and there's a lot of reasons that it happens, but I think you have hit on one of the main reasons. There's so many layers to stories. So many variables, so many perspectives, and so many other things that you can't put into, even if you write a trilogy, you can't put it all on paper.
Right.
So you have to allow for that evolution to the next level. And there's some things, no matter how vivid a person's imagination is, and we talked about this last week with our voice actor, I view, I still like reading handheld hard copy books. I don't like reading them in electronic format. I like holding them. And for me, books were really were the original virtual reality glasses. You hold them up, you're reading it, and you actually are sucked into them. And a good book will do that. A good book will suck you in, and it will create a world all of its own, and it will give you the images that you need. But even sometimes, with as good as imagination as you may have, it really does need that visual image for a lot of things to actually, as you said, leave that indelible imprint in the mind.
Yes, and it has to be done authentically. It has to be done in such a way that if I were sitting in the audience looking at this film and this story for the first time, that it would grab me by the heart as well as the throat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want. Because, there are so many moments in our tenure at that farm that were just full of laughter and full of love and funny. Drop to your knees, grab your tummy laughing. Like when Fawn, we had this great cast. Oh, my God, I loved Fawn. She was so awesome. And we named her that because she had deer eyes. With the long, long lashes, and she was so pretty, and she was the color of a deer. And my father had a few really nice dress-up shirts, and my mother had laundered one of them, a silk shirt that he had, and she hung it out to dry, and Fawn went over and started eating it off the line. And she had one whole sleeve into, like, her second stomach. By the time my mother realized what had happened, and you should have seen them trying to extricate that shirt from that cow. It was, oh, God, it was so great. And there was no saving the shirt, no saving it. Watching my father have a meltdown and swearing at the cow and her looking at him like, this is good, don't take it away. You know, it was, oh my God. I mean, with so many moments like that were just normal, happy family moments. You know, we didn't live in a constant state of alert. We didn't live in a constant state of feeling threatened or anything like that. You know, we tried to make our life as normal as we could, and if things got weird in the house, then we'd go outside and play, and it didn't even matter what the weather was. You know, we were kids. Mm-hmm. We'd go sledding in the winter and tree climbing in the spring and swimming in the summer, and we had 200 acres of, you know, just, God, virgin forest to play in. It was an amazing way to grow up, and I'll tell you, it turned each one of us into the individuals that we are. And I have no regrets about waiting 30 years to tell our story, because it happened exactly when it was supposed to. It happened when the world was ready to accept it, and to see elements of it on film, and then to dig deeper in the books and understand. It's a life-affirming, transformational piece of literature that I'm very proud of. It's my life's work, and it is a very intimate sharing of our family's story in a way that few books achieve, because people generally don't want to be this brutally honest in a memoir. You know, they find a way around it, just like Hollywood does. You know, what can the reading public or the viewing public absorb? What can they take in? Well, I operated from the assumption that they could handle anything I threw at them.
Now, you mentioned something that I find interesting, and I wanted to ask you this. The way, because I know that you are a firm believer in synchronicity, and things happen for a reason, and that timing is right. But do you think that having your family presented to the worldwide audience in the Conjuring, did that better prepare people for the story? Do you think it was it a better thing that story came out first, or did it do more damage, and did it kind of cloud the issues by that movie coming out first?
Had it not been for The Conjuring, my 3 books that I labored for 7 years to write, 7 years to the day, start to finish, of that project. The 3rd book was published literally 7 years to the day that I began the project. And nothing that I planned, nothing that I could have planned, that happened because of the publisher and what day they decided to release the 3rd book. And my books would be languishing in obscurity on Amazon, along with countless tens of thousands of other books that get bought by aunts and uncles and friends from the office. Mm-hmm. Had it not been for The Conjuring, nobody would know our story. So I will always be grateful for what they did. Everyone that worked on that film put their whole heart and soul into it. They knew that they were portraying live human beings, and they met all of us. So there was an attachment and a connection between all of us, especially the girls, the 5 little girls. They're just wonderful, wonderful, each one of them, that made them do their very best. And I was very proud of all of them. I thought Lily Taylor really threw herself into the role of my mother. I thought Ron Livingston was lovely for how he was written. Unfortunately, they didn't really capture my father. He came off way too soft and sweet and gushy. There was nothing soft or sweet or gushy about Roger Perron. It wasn't. He didn't want the Warrens there. He didn't trust them. He didn't like them. He didn't want to know them. He wanted all of this to go away. He had no control over his own household when he was there or when he was gone. And he never knew what was coming next, and it was just freaking him out. And for several years, it was not the most pleasant experience being with him when there was activity in the house, because he was either being king of denial or he was angry about it, and so we'd all kind of just scoot off and hide, and we really couldn't talk to him about what our experiences were. We could only talk to our mother, who was not really sharing what was happening to her because it was so intense, and she wasn't going to tell her little girls. So, it was very convoluted, and it was sometimes chaotic, and it was, there was a lot of suppression. There was a lot of feelings of abandonment because Dad had to be away from home so much. He wasn't a truck driver. He had his own business, and he had clients all the way from Quebec to Ohio to Florida. So he was on the road a lot, and we were on our own. So when things got scary, we kind of banded together. Like the band of brothers, we were the band of sisters, and we took care of each other. And when the girls were scared, they'd come and crawl in bed with me. If there was stuff going on in the upstairs of the house in the middle of the night, I'd wake up with, 2 or 3 sisters in bed with me, and that was perfectly fine. Anything to keep warm in winter in Rhode Island. It was. Now, I'm grateful for The Conjuring. Yeah, they got a lot of things wrong. Yeah, they made a lot of stuff up. But I think that they captured the heart of what our family went through. And that's an amazing feat, to compress 10 years into 2 hours and leave people with the right impression.
Yes, it is.
Now, you mentioned, how things portraying your mother and your father in the film. As far as how the girls were portrayed, and you didn't get a whole lot into the personalities of the girls, but how do you think that your all's depiction was handled?
Well, the one thing that I've copped the most teasing about is that there were a couple of scenes where the young lady who played me, Shanley Caswell, was rather flirtatious with the young man who was there assisting the Warrens.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Not in a million years would I have done that. I'm telling you, not in a million years. It was my sister Nancy, number 2, the second one in line. If it was male, it was gorgeous, it was desirable, and it was something to flirt with. And me, good luck pulling my face out of a book or out of a musical score as I'm, reading a composition and memorizing it on my flute, or guitar or piano, or, I was totally into my music, totally into my literature. I knew before I was in high school that I was going to be a philosophy major. I grew up, like my personal secular Bible is Emerson's essays. I think he was one of the greatest gifts to humanity. Walden, Henry David Thoreau. This was my reading material growing up. Walt Whitman, Leaves of Grass. It was like always in my pocket. And so, yes, they misrepresented it. But however, they also captured precisely how protective I was of Cindy, my little sister Cindy, who was played by Mackenzie Foy. And they really got that. And even though, no, there was never any apparition that jumped off my armoire down on top of me in my room, all made up, never happened. Cindy was very significantly impacted by things that were happening in the farmhouse. And she did walk in her sleep sometimes, and so did Christine. And they would come to me. And I was like the third parent, even from the age of 12 when we moved in. By the time I was 15, they came to me for everything because Mom was clearly struggling and we didn't know all the details of why. So there were a lot of dynamics at play. It is a very complicated story. I mean, the cast of characters, oh my God, between the living and the dead, there were at least a dozen spirits in that house that we had regular contact with. It wasn't just one going after my mother, and the one that was going after my mother was not Bathsheba Sherman. That spirit was dead before Bathsheba Sherman was ever born. And we were told that Bathsheba was related to the Arnold family, but in fact she was not. She married into the Sherman. She married Judson Sherman. She lived at the Sherman farm, which was about a mile away from our farm. And even though she had some connection to the Arnold estate that was our house, she was not an owner of it. She never lived there. And she came from a union of the Taft and Thayer families, which are two of the oldest families in New England. Thayer Street in Providence is where Brown University is. I mean, this goes back to the early and mid-1600s. These families came down from the Massachusetts Bay Colony and followed Roger Williams to the new colony of Rhode Island. So they go back as far as Europeans go back in New England. The house was, as it stands, was completed in 1736. The land for it was deeded as one of the original Providence plantations in 1680. So this is old as dirt kind of stuff, it's not England where you can grow up in a 600-year-old house, but it's old for the United States.
Very much so.
And we, 8 generations of one extended family lived and died in our house before we ever set eyes on it. Some of them never left.
So now, you've brought up two things that I find interesting. One is the issue of an entity that was attacking your mother. And you said that entity had died long before Bathsheba had been born. So in the movie, your mother is being attacked, as are all of you, by this entity of Bathsheba Sherman. What entity was attacking your mother?
Well, none of them ever walked up to us and said, "Hello, my name is." So
they didn't have a badge?
All an educated. No, I wish. I really do. I wish that we knew precisely who they were. But as I wrote in the books, at this point, it doesn't matter who they were. That they are still is what is freaking miraculous. That we were able to have contact with characters that were dead. People that had lived and had maintained some semblance of enough energy to make their presence known in that house. And we were taught from a very early age to always show respect for the dead. Once we understood that we were living in an incredibly different place than where we had been living, my mother made it clear to us that we were never to provoke them or, say anything unkind to them. And her attitude was, this was their house first. We're the intruders. They don't understand that they can still come and go from this house. They don't understand that it's not theirs anymore. So in the way that they approach it and think about it, it is theirs. And it was made very clear to my mother by the entity that approached her, the one with the broken neck and the head hanging off to the side. And, she was just really gruesome looking. It may have been Mrs. Arnold. The town historian at the time when we moved in said that Mrs. Arnold was found hanging in the barn in the late 1700s. Didn't have an exact date, but said that she was at the age of 93 that she decided to take her own life in the barn. And my mother gathered as much historical data as she could about the house. Mrs. Warren took her notebook and asked, and that was represented in the film, with that she had all kinds of historical documents about the house and, looking at the history of the house. And she borrowed my mother's notebook, and she never returned it. So, I didn't try to put this together as a historical document. This is a family memoir. These are our memories and what we were told and how things transpired, and the experiences that we had in that house. But I do know that the apparition that approached my mother had either a kind of a British or a Scottish accent. She spoke in English that was archaic in the 1800s when Bathsheba lived. Bathsheba was born in 1812, and she died in 1885. She had 4 children. Only one survived her. Her first 3 children died before the age of 4. She lived a miserable life. There is no evidence anywhere that she was a practicing witch. This is all stuff that Mrs. Warren intuited, psychically intuited about Bathsheba and her connection to that house. And she put that in her notes, and Hollywood got a hold of her notes, and then they twisted it more, and that's where The Conjuring comes from. And I don't want people to be dismayed by that. I don't, because it gives me an opportunity. This might sound strange, but it gives me an opportunity to talk about it and set the record straight and to be Bathsheba's defender. And I cannot absolve her of what she was accused of in life. I don't know. I wasn't there to my recollection. But I do know that I feel a certain compassion and a sympathy for her that has been with me lifelong. And I know that she got a bad rap in life, and she got a bad rap in death. And she wasn't happy about the film, but she was a rather vain woman in life. She was ravishing beauty, and by all accounts. And she created some havoc during the filming, and just prior to the opening of the film, because she was not happy. The message that I got from her, and from a number of sources as well, was that she was really unhappy that a man played her in the movie. Not that she was accused of murdering anybody or anything like that. It's like, wouldn't you take exception to that and not care so much about who's playing in the movie? But she follows me around, and she shows up when I do spirit box sessions. And I did a session with George Lopez, my co-author, on In a Flicker, which I would like to mention before we're done tonight.
Absolutely.
But George is master of spirit box. I mean, he really is amazing. The communications that he gets through his little tweaked transistor radio. It's amazing. And one night I was with him at his house, and we decided to do a session, and she came right through. I recognized her voice immediately from my childhood, and it was the first time I had heard it in about 40 years that I had actually heard her voice. And George asked her what one word she associated with me, and her instantaneous response was love.
Mm.
Justin in the chat room is asking if there's still problems with trespassing at the farm.
Well, I don't know. I don't live there.
Right, but you stay in contact with them more than we do, perhaps.
Well, I don't.
Oh, sorry.
Unfortunately, my friendship was blown apart when the movie opened. And the lunatic fringe came out of the woodwork, and the owner of the farm just put all the blame on all of it for me and went public and said, everybody go away, no ghosts here. claimed on national TV that I never told her there was going to be a film made about the story, which was ludicrous. I have her on film talking about it with me. The trust was gone. It fractured our friendship. A 38-year friendship was over overnight.
I'm so sorry.
And I don't really know what's going on. I did everything in my power to help her, to help them. Her husband passed away a few months ago. God rest his soul. He was a wonderful human being. I don't know what the status is of the farm now, or what the status will be. If she's going to sell it or what, I don't know. But I will tell you this. That's the only place in my whole life that ever really felt like home to me. Every place else has felt temporary, but the farm feels permanent. And I miss being able to go there whenever I want. I was able to visit there for years and years, decades, that I was able to go whenever I wanted to. And for most of that time, I only lived about 10 miles away from it. So it was a regular excursion for me. It is the big black cloud over this project. I understand why she was so upset, and I did what I could to mitigate it. Warner Brothers offered her security on the property. She turned it down, and then when she demanded it again, they told her sayonara. Because she wasn't particularly nice about it the first time. I did everything I could to, make it stop. And I never expected, in all the years, Wendy, all about my books and the years that my books were out. You and I have talked personally about this, and I've told you in the past, none of my readers ever imposed themselves upon them.
Right.
They never did. They didn't go knocking on the door. They didn't sneak up and try to take pictures. They didn't roam the property unfettered. None of my readers did that. They were always respectful of the current owners. But when a movie is seen by countless millions, there's always going to be that element.
Right.
And from what I understand, it only persisted for a few weeks. And then it pretty much subsided, but she's suing Warner Brothers for an undisclosed figure. I don't know if that went anywhere or if it's been squashed. Now the ghostwriter for the Warrens is suing Warner Brothers for $900 million, claiming that he had exclusive rights to all of their stories 37 years ago. He and Lorraine called my mother in 1980. Right after we had moved from the farm and had moved down to Georgia. We were living in Cherokee County up in the Salicoa Valley. And we don't know how she got our new number, but she found us. And she put the ghostwriter on the phone and tried to convince my mother to cooperate and let our story be told. And my mother turned him down flat. And now he's suing, saying he owns all these stories. Well, I don't think so. It's the way of the world, sadly. We're a litigious society. I want to stay as far away from all of that as I possibly can, and just tell my story, our true story, to the best of my ability to whomever will listen. And then after I wrote the trilogy, I moved on with George. He brought an idea to me that I simply found irresistible. One night I was actually kind of suffering a little bit of what I call postpartum depression after I finished the trilogy. It was weird. It was like, what am I going to do with my life now? I don't want to just talk about, a stupid doll that didn't exist in our story for the rest of my natural born days. So I talked to him one night late. He called just to check on me, and he said, well, let me tell you a story. And he did, and he told me the story of what became In a Flicker, my fourth book that I collaborated with him on. He had that idea in his head for 25 years, and it was not until the night he told me that I said, "Oh, my God, George, you have to write this down." And he said, "But I'm not a writer." I said, "Well, I am. I'll help you." And we did it, and it's gotten nothing but 5-star reviews. It's just been an extraordinary success. I'm so pleased. In fact, we've just put it with a new publisher. We're going with Gatekeeper Press, which is a company that's a little bit smaller than the original publisher, and where it can get more attention in England, where it is set. So I went from writing about a haunted house to Jack the Ripper. and George came up, okay, let's, and now for something new and interesting. And George came up with what I conceived to be the only plausible explanation for why Jack the Ripper was never apprehended. It's a fascinating read, absolutely brilliant. George is brilliant. And,
Yes.
I mean, I could never in a billion years have come up with this idea myself, but I could help turn his idea into a novel, which is what I did. And it'll be available. We're in transition now from one publisher to another. It's available for pre-order on Amazon. And it should be out May 23rd or 24th, I believe, is when we relaunch.
Oh, okay.
In a Flicker with a new cover. Because George was never happy with the new cover. He was never happy with the original cover.
The candle and the knife and the...
Oh, it's like, it's just not right. It's just not quite right. It just doesn't quite capture it. I'm like, okay, George, find somebody that can make you the exact cover that you want. Well, he did. He did. And it's perfect. And he was right. I hate saying that, by the way.
I won't tell him. I promise.
Oh, please don't tell him. Oh, my God, don't tell him. It's big enough. Oh, there's the train. I'm outside on the back now, listening to the train go by and looking at the full flower moon. Did you know that it's the flower moon in the Mystic Moon Cafe tonight?
Well, I knew it was full. I did not know it was a flower moon. I actually don't know if I know what a flower moon is.
I thought it was
the full moon in May.
It's the full moon in what?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
See how human beings label everything? We have to label everything. We're not happy unless we label everything.
Everything.
How we are.
Yep.
So ask me anything. I'll tell you.
Oh, I know you will. I know that. See, if I were a ghost in the ghost box and I was asked one word to describe you, it would probably have to be, I don't know if it would be honest or transparent, but you have this transparency. You just put everything out there. You put your heart out there. You put your ideas out there. You put everything out there.
And yet I'm remarkably solid, and maybe a little more solid than I'd like to be. It's miraculous. It's like a Christmas miracle 12 months out of it.
Well, we have met a lot of. I have met a lot of people doing my own publicity and PR consulting and working with Susan Bell, and I'm hoping that Susan has been able to join us. I texted her to remind her she was going to try to listen at some point. And then, of course, through this show, Wendy and I have met so many engaging characters and authors and things like that. But we are, we do have our favorites, and I have to say that, you are in that top 5, those top 5 favorite people to have on the show, because you always bring more than just a Q&A. There's enlightenment, there's education, there's entertainment, there's all of these facets of your personality. And not everybody does an interview like that.
I don't really think of them as interviews.
I've been working with my
friends.
Travis?
Exactly. It's a conversation. Yeah.
It is. It's
Yes,
a
Wendy.
lovely discussion among friends.
Oh, you were just breaking up real bad there for a minute.
Oh, okay. Maybe my internet.
I blame the spirits. Don't worry, it's them. They're just making me present.
They always come to your
They
show.
understand.
Yep.
They do.
Yeah, they do,
Well,
Wendy. Wendy knows it well, too.
Yep.
oh, well, Bill and I have had the same problem. Bill Bean and I have had the same problem. And I've had, Mothman or Indrid Cold or whichever entity you want to term it, has popped up many times in interviews that I've done about the Mothman. Ruined entire interviews. I was doing one show with Brad Scott, a Naked Zombie Radio in Australia, and we were doing it recorded so that he could play it back live in us or in the regular time slot in Australia. And we lost. It was a 2-hour show. We lost an entire hour of the recording. And he said, I've been doing this show for like 5 years. I've never had that happen. I've never lost an entire hour of a recorded episode. So I hear you. I'm right there with you. I've had it happen several times.
Friend in Germany, Matthew, who had a radio show, and we had so much. We were talking about some very specific subjects, ETs, the study of demonology. We were in really deep. There was so much interference on what had been perfectly flawless live broadcast. Got that subject matter got so bad that it freaked him out. He ended the show.
Wow.
With my permission. And I mean, it's gotten more hits than just about. People were freaked out. I mean, there was chanting going on. There was the background noise got very synthesized for a while. Especially when we got into the ET in depth in that subject. It got really very convoluted. We finally just said, you guys win. You win. We give up. You obviously don't want us to talk about this or impart any information tonight.
Yep.
We're done here.
Exactly, yes.
Well, George and I did a show, too, for a couple of years, A World Awakening. And depending, again, on the subject matter and sometimes who we had on, we would have disparate but clearly obvious paranormal interference. If it was John Zappis and he started getting into some of the stories of his haunted items in his museum, depending on the story, all of a sudden we'd start hearing, really dark, deep voices, that make you sound like a soprano. And honestly, and there were times that I got chills up my spine. And you know what? That's one of the very best ways, you both know that one of the very best ways for spirit entities to be able to communicate with us is through our electronics.
Oh, absolutely.
Energy is everything. And they are energy. And so they go for what is a communication device that they can get some type of message through with ease. So it shouldn't surprise anyone that, Skype will get scrambled or that our phone calls will be interrupted. They just simply want to make their presence known. And I find that if I ask them to simply let it subside and just listen, that they're welcome to stay and listen, but they cannot interfere. Generally, that's how it works out.
It's interesting that you bring that up, Andrea, because I have a lot of friends in the paranormal community, a lot of paranormal investigators and researchers and authors, and, of course, Bill Bean, the spirit warrior. And I have heard all of them say in the past couple of years that they seem to see more and more paranormal activity, more and more spiritual activity. And I think you hit on a very interesting concept, is that the more we yield ourselves to technological communication and advances in technology, which it's almost counterintuitive because we're going more and more technical, more and more scientific, but it's giving more and more opportunities for that spirit realm to actually communicate with us.
Yes, absolutely true. And I am. I don't mean to contradict anybody else in the field, but I don't believe that there's a veil. I think that that's a human machination. That it is a fabrication, as it were. That there is no separation between us and them. Everything is one thing. Everything is energy, and we're all part of a one very significant whole. And I'm not just talking about globally. I'm talking universally.
Universally. Mm-hmm.
And so if your approach and your perspective is rooted in that fundamental belief and knowledge, and for me it's knowledge. I bypassed belief decades and decades ago. I know what I know. But the most important thing that I think that human beings, and all of our arrogance and self-righteousness should assume, there's only one safe assumption to make, and that is, of everything that there is to know, we know nothing compared to what there is to know. And so, to me, that's what's so exciting about this field, because we're making new discoveries all the time. And, sadly, there are an awful lot of people who are producing a great deal of evidence with their, nifty gadgets and their own perceptions, and through automatic writing and all kinds of things that have been going on really in earnest since the 1800s. Mm-hmm. And, those forebearers, the ones that came before us, have paved, quite a path. And the people who were most interested in paranormal activity in the 18 and 1900s were scientists. Nikola Tesla is the one that said, when we finally merge science and spirituality, we will make great progress in our understanding of the universe. And I'm paraphrasing that, of course, but that was essentially the message, that it is the coming together and the merging, and we are in an incredible state of flux. There is a wave of consciousness raising going on across this entire globe. And everybody is, looking at this like, oh my God, everything's being shaken up, everything's being disturbed, everything's just, and this country's acting up, and this country's acting up, and all hell's breaking loose in our country. Mm-hmm. This all has to happen. All of it has to happen, or it would have happened another way. This is the ascension. This is the age of Aquarius being ushered in. The Mayans were correct when they ended their calendar in December of 2012. That was the end of the Piscean age. And the age of Aquarius began after that. Now, nobody can pin it down to a specific moment. It's a process. Right. And part of that process is the evolution of human consciousness, understanding that there is a collective consciousness, that there is one mind. We each are graced with individual brains to do with what we please, but we are all tapping into one spirit, one soul, one mind, one divine order that exists in an ever-expanding universe. This is bigger than any of us can wrap our minds around. But the fact is that we're all connected, every single one of us. And we are now in the process of learning that at such a rapid rate of speed that it is literally transforming the planet, what Dolores Cannon referred to as the emergence of New Earth. It's very exciting. It's an incredible time to be alive, and none of us are here by mistake. We're all part of it.
No, absolutely. Again, I think you bring such a refreshing outlook on topics that we cover on a weekly basis here, and there's this cross-sectioning of. And with you, paranormal doesn't even really come to. I mean, you really are much more. I want to say supernatural, and I mean that in a very, very positive way. It's the as you mentioned, there's no veil. Everything is natural. Energy is natural. These things are natural. You just happen to be able to sense and see and discuss things on this super level. And that is a refreshing outlook, especially for Wendy and I when we do talk. And I don't bash anybody's views. We've had people on here. I don't always agree with their views. I don't always agree with their outlooks and their perspectives. But it is always interesting to hear how other individuals are perceiving the same types of events. Now, and I say that with a twofold question. One of the things that you had mentioned in a previous interview with us is that while there were apparitions and entities at the farmhouse, there was also other supernatural activity too. You'd mentioned lights in the sky and things like that as well, did you not?
Yes, and I believe that there is a point of correlation and integration. I believe that the extraterrestrial beings that are flooding our quadrant of the universe, watching expectantly what's happening on this planet, are for the most part, not exclusively, but for the most part benevolent, they are here to help us simply by making their presence known, to elevate our and expand our human consciousness, not only to accept them, but also to accept that we are part of a greater whole. Mm-hmm. But I think that, you know, how I was speaking earlier about a process, I think that the reason why I was so open to having the experiences that I did in terms of what I saw of an extraterrestrial nature at the farm, what all of us saw there, was part and parcel of us being exposed to the spirits in the house as well. I think that it opened up that doorway. We ceased living as a family. We ceased living in a three-dimensional, five-sensory realm, which is what most human beings relegate themselves to for safety's sake, if nothing else. It's comfortable. But once you see past it, once you understand that there is so much more and that what is most real is mostly invisible, mm-hmm. Once you expand your mind to receive and process that information, it leaves you open to further information. And every one of us at the farm saw inexplicable things in the skies. Now, yes, we lived on 200 acres. There were no street lights. When you walked out of that house at night, you saw as much as a human eye can see of the cosmos from that particular vantage point on the planet. And I had an experience there when I was 13 that utterly and irrevocably changed my life. And I saw a flotilla of the most beautiful, beautiful geometric forms of vessels fly directly over the farmhouse. And it changed everything. I mean, talk about the ultimate game changer. Mm-hmm. From the age of 13, not only from the age of 12, I knew that there was something beyond our mortal existence. From the age of 13, I knew that we were so not alone in the universe that it was ridiculous. And it took more than 30 years for me to find the reports that were written at the time about this particular flotilla of ships that came down the eastern seaboard, first showed up on radar around Nova Scotia, came down the eastern seaboard, cut across the Atlantic Ocean from about southern Maryland, went and made a tour of Western Europe. And when the Royal Air Force scrambled their fighter jets to go after it, it disappeared off the radar in a split second over the North Pole, and it was gone. I didn't know for decades that I was not the only one who saw it. But knowing that, having that validation that I got at a Star Work Symposium for about 4 years ago, when I saw a presentation about this particular flotilla, and I was able to put the timeline together and realize that's what I saw. My immediate question, not that I'm so completely intellectually precocious that I was not able to focus it on myself and my experience, but in the bigger picture, I had to ask first and foremost, if I was one of tens of thousands of people who saw that, thousands of reports were filed and police stations, MUFON has all kinds of reports of this in their archives. The Royal Air Force, when England started releasing in droves their information about ETs a couple of years ago, it popped up there. And my question to humanity is this: why was I one of thousands of people who saw this when it passed over millions and millions of people, but only several thousand reported it? Did they not see it? Were they not supposed to see it? Were there just some of us that were supposed to see it and others not? What is this? What's going on here? And during all of my research, and I will openly admit that my research factors predominantly around extraterrestrials. To me, that's the reason I get up every morning, is that they're here. And I go out and say, thank you. Thank you very much for coming.
There's
Wendy?
There's a question in the chat room from Bella Smith. Does Andrea remember what month she saw this? Hers was in October of 1972.
That's when I saw it.
Okay. Thank you. And Travis.
No, you make fun of me, Wendy. Wendy gives me hell, Andrea, because extraterrestrials is kind of my...
That's
one
his
of the
thing.
areas that is my thing. I have always been intrigued, going back to when I was probably 4 or 5 years old, laying in the back seat of my parents' car as we were driving across a mountain ridge in Virginia, and I was looking out the back window as I was laying there in the seat, and I see this very, very strangely shaped glowing object just floating along in the sky. And it was a multi-pointed geometric shape, and I remember it very distinctly.
Beautiful.
They are.
Yes, they're beautiful.
And it was burnt in my mind. And I remember seeing that, and I have always been intrigued with that concept. And I remember I grew up in an extremely evangelical, religious, Christian home, but even I remember as a child laying in bed at night questioning my parents about, if we were the only things, the only species in existence in the universe, why were there 9 planets? Well, there were 9 at that point. Pluto had not been downgraded at that point. Why were there 9 planets? Why were there so many solar systems? Why? I remember asking those questions, and I think, again, going back to that, there's no veil. In a natural sense, when we are young, before we have been taught what to believe, we have a sense of knowledge. We have that sense of knowing already. We know this. We are already in touch with that universal energy that you have talked about. We teach ourselves. Yeah, we are taught to believe against that. We are taught to question everything about that.
Yes, we are. And you're at your most organic and your most receptive when you're a child. But let me posit this hypothesis. You're on a radio show tonight that you put a great deal of time, energy, and effort into to make happen every week because of the experience that you had when you were 5 years old.
Yes, absolutely. I have been questioning and chasing the truth ever since.
Well, you're no different than Carl Sagan and so many others. that had experiences in their youth, sometimes very early in life, that it completely altered their trajectory in life. You are one of the people on this planet that is here specifically to get the word out and to help dispel the fear around the galactic family.
See, Wendy, I told you.
You
Yeah,
told me
Wendy,
what?
he did tell you.
I told you,
But
Wendy.
he told me what? I tease him about
Wendy,
dang near everything.
Yeah, Wendy
Yeah.
teases me because Wendy's got this thing about ley lines, and she is every time we have. So ask her, Wendy. Ask her if the farmhouse was on a ley line.
Okay,
Yes.
Andrea. Okay, thank you.
Yes, it was completely surrounded by water, and it was built on land on top of the Lost River of New Hampshire that was buried during the last ice age. The purest water that exists on this planet runs directly beneath that house.
So now I have a
Very
question.
interesting.
It is very interesting, and it actually there's so many other questions about that I want to, but I have to ask this question. Did you and or your family have any type of supernatural paranormal occurrences prior to moving to the farmhouse? Or did things kind of...
Nothing.
So do you think, was this a doorway for you all? And I know you don't believe in the veil, but do you think there was something that made you sensitive and your family sensitive when you moved there?
Yeah, I do. Well, I always profess that everything happens with purpose and reason, and it's right and proper time. I've lived my entire life that way, which makes me, if anything else, accepting of things that I cannot change. And so, including the loss of my sister, it has opened me up in ways that I couldn't have imagined 2 months ago when she was alive and well and on the phone with me, haunting and taunting me to talk to her while I was trying to get books out. I look at this, I really do believe, and this falls into the category of belief. I can't say that I know this unequivocally, but I do believe that our family was drawn to that house for a reason, that we lived there for 10 years for a reason. That house wouldn't let us go. My mother had to ask spirits to let us leave. And that's all detailed in Volume 3, which it's books. It was the most emotional and the most difficult. It fractured our family when we left the house. She refused to move. She said that was her house. It was always going to be her house. She stayed on as the caretaker of it for the new owners for months after the rest of the family moved, and we never lived under the same roof again. April asked that her ashes be scattered along the Nip River that runs behind the farm. To her, that was home. I didn't even know that until after she had passed, and my mother told me that that was her wish. We were supposed to move to that house, and I had an experience there when I was 17 years old that I might have discussed with you on the show before. I'm not sure if I had, and if I'm being redundant, I do apologize.
Not
but
at all.
This is a very important incident that happened to me at the house, and I very often talk about things that happened to everybody else and don't focus so much on my experiences, but this one was really important. And I was home for my birthday. I was turning 18. I was home from college for the weekend because it fell on the Columbus Day weekend, being October 10th, my birthday. And so I had 3 days, and my father flew me home from Pittsburgh. And I was very cold. I had in the 6 or 7 weeks that I had been away at college, I guess I forgot about the difference between natural cold and supernatural cold. But I was supernaturally cold, and I was standing on the hearthstone, warming myself against the fireplace. And my family was sitting in the dining room. I could see all of them. They could see me. And a full body apparition manifested right beside me. My father saw her first, then my mother, and then all my sisters saw her, but nobody saw her face except me. She was looking directly at me, and she was a mirror image reflection of me as an old woman. Same eyes, same smile, same features, same hair, only all gray up in a bun on the top of her head, wearing a leg of mutton dress full length to the floor, indicative of the 1700s. And she smiled at me, and I just melted inside. It was the most truly profound experience of my life. And she recognized me, and I recognized her, and the kindness and the love and the connection between us was palpable. And then she disappeared. And I didn't tell anybody in my family until several years later that I saw myself as an old woman from 200 years before. And was the day that we were moving out of the house in June of 1980. I had my mom in the car with me. We were doing it caravan style. So Dad had a couple of the kids in the truck with him. Christine was asleep in the back seat with us. And I told my mother about what I saw that night when they only saw her from the side. And I saw her face. And my mother, I was driving at the time, and my mom reached over and put her hand on my hand and just kind of patted me a little bit. And she said, I always knew we bought that house for you.
Wow. No, I don't remember that one coming up before, Andrea. But,
no, we've never had that conversation, but it is so funny that you mention it, because you have hinted tonight in some of the statements that you made, and you've never done that before. You said that this was the first and only place that felt like home, and you talked about Bathsheba. There were things that you could intuit, but you could not say that you knew, because you wouldn't say that you had been alive at that point in time. And one of my questions for you tonight was going to be, do you believe in past lives, and do you think this was your home in a past life, which is why you always found it to be home?
Well, the scientific part of me that knows the myriad ways that spirits can manifest, they can throw our own voices. She's done that to me. George has made her back off. I've heard my own voice come through that spirit box with him saying, no, you speak in your own voice, or we can't have a discussion. We can't. And then comes through her voice, which was very diminutive, very small, almost childlike, and very high-pitched. And so I don't know if she is my connection or not. I really don't know that. And I don't know what her connection was to the Arnold estate when she was a Sherman by marriage. But I do know that there is something about that place that makes me completely comfortable living in a portal cleverly disguised as a farmhouse. I am most comfortable in my own element when I am among the spirits in the spirit world. I feel as much a part of them as I do of this earth, and have often been accused of having only one toe attached to the planet and the rest of me elsewhere. I feel in moments very mortal, especially when I'm grieving. But I also know that I have a connection to the stars. I don't use the phrase galactic family lightly. I feel a kindred sense, as I felt kindred spirits with the ghosts in the house. I feel even a more profound connection with the living beings that surround us on this planet, and that I'd never call alien. You've never heard me use that word. No. They're no more alien to the planet than we are. And so this is shared space in the same way that farmhouse was shared space. It's the same, but it's different, but it's the same. And I say that deliberately, not to be, to bring confusion to anyone, but the galactic family, for the most part, and I got something against the Greys. I really do. I have to admit, I'm not a big fan of the Greys.
Little bastards.
And I have nothing to do with them. Nothing to do with them. They are AI. They don't care what they do to us or how it hurts. They don't. They're scientists and they're artificial intelligence. But for the most part, the light beings that are out there are extremely beyond our capacity to comprehend, so spiritually evolved. The Arcturians, the Pleiadians, there are so many different races that are hovering around, waiting. I mean, we're the greatest show going on in the universe right now. We're right on the verge of blowing ourselves to smithereens. They're watching everything that we do. And I don't mean to, get off of one subject and back onto another, but I think it's very important for everyone to understand that it is incumbent upon each one of us individually to do our part every day to raise the vibration of this planet. Because, one night, I'll tell you real quick, aside, one night, and you can find this in my notes on Facebook. It's called The Chicken and the Egg. It's an essay that I wrote at about 2:30 in the morning. My friend Larry knows all about it. He kind of encouraged me through it because he never sleeps, so he was up. I was like, Larry, I can't sleep. Oh, my God, what's going on? I felt like I had stuff crawling in my veins. I got up. I went outside. I looked up to the sky. I said, what? What is it? What? And I suddenly, in a split second, I had a vivid image of standing at a chicken farm with my mother when I was a little kid. We had just moved to the farm, and she took us over to a nearby farm to buy fresh eggs. And the farmer let us in where the eggs had not been candled, and they were going to make chicks. And let us go over to one of the nests, and we could see that one of the chicks was trying to peck its way out of the shell. And I reached over, and my mother gently stopped me and put her hand on my hand and withdrew it and said, no, honey, you can't help the babies be born, because if you do, they will die. If you touch the eggs, they will die. And I was so mortified by that as a little kid. And I had to ask her to explain why. And I had a vivid flash out of nowhere. I hadn't thought about that in 40 years. And they were giving me a message. And the message is, we are here to help you help yourself. We can't release you from the egg. You won't survive. You have to peck your own way out of this shell that you've created around yourself, spiritually, psychologically, and in every other way, so that humanity can survive, because the amount of energy that is required for us to peck our way out of this shell of our own understanding is exactly equivalent to the amount of energy that it will require for us to survive on the outside. I got it.
Message received, right?
Say that again, Wen.
I said message received, correct?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, darling. And thank you for that reference. Yes.
Sure.
Message received. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I got it. And I went in, and it just poured out of me, and I put it on a Facebook note with a picture of a chick breaking out of its shell. It's called The Chicken and the Egg. We're the chick. We're the chick.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to peck our way out of our limited understanding of who we are in context with the universe. And they can't do it for us. We have to save ourselves.
Definitely, yes. Yes. Now, I was watching The Abyss earlier today, and I don't know why it keeps popping into my head, but Just that the whole gentle, almost saving some of us from ourselves and the elements around us is just very, very much in the forefront of my brain right now. I apologize.
Oh, no, don't apologize. It's there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
This entire discussion, our conversation tonight, is touching people and opening their minds and stroking their hearts in ways that we can't even conceive of. You know, this is very important, and anything that is lingering in the forefront of your mind is begging for its rightfully deserved attention. So, yes, absolutely. There's no mistakes being made here. There's no coincidence involved. We're discussing what our audience needs to hear and what we need to share amongst ourselves for our own growth, our own spiritual evolution. It is a process. It's, you know, none of us is quantifiably higher or lower in the scheme of things. Mm-hmm. We're all on our own individual path. And we're all in our journey of exploration, and Earth is an enormous classroom. So we need to be cognizant of the messages that are being received if we are open to them. The vast majority of human beings, as you well know, live from day to day just trying to survive, just to get through one day into the next, to raise their children so that they have a better life than their parents did. That seems to be the guiding motivation for the vast amount of humanity, through no fault of their own. But there are those of us on the planet who have seen, who have experienced things that perhaps many others have not. And we are the ones who are the guides. We are the ones, no matter how dark our moments might become, we have to consistently be the light, because when we as human beings learn that we must be the light that we seek, that the central core of it exists within each and every one of us, and we put that out into the world, that changes the world. And it changes the world for the better, and it opens people all around us, because when we are clear on our own mission and our own purpose and reason for being, then that opens everyone that is in our peripheral realm, everyone that we encounter. And when they are touched, they go out and touch others and maybe expose them to concepts that they've never considered before. And we're not going to see any definitive conclusion to all of this in our lifetimes, because this is an ongoing process. I didn't believe in reincarnation until I saw the spitting image of myself on a hearthstone when I was 17 years old. It didn't make any sense to me. I could not assimilate the whole notion of the baby Jesus and Immaculate Conception until I saw lights in the skies. And it finally made sense to me that the only plausible explanation for the birth of Jesus was that he was a gift from the galactic family to the planet to teach us how to love each other and stop killing each other. And look how well that worked out for him.
Right.
You know, I mean, this is a process, and it is a slow, tedious, laborious process, because what do human beings fight more than anything else? The only thing that is constant in the universe is change, and it's the one thing that human beings don't want in their lives. They're perfectly happy with the status quo. They don't want anything to be shaken up. So, wow. Now it's time to shake it up and wake it up, and let's look at the world in the context of the universe, and let's see what we can do to keep our race alive, not just thriving or growing. What are we going to do each individually to keep our race alive? Good conquers evil all the time, every single time without exception. Let's start there. If good did not conquer evil, none of us would be here anymore, because the bad guys would have killed the good guys. All off.
Oh, yeah.
And
In a
that's
heartbeat.
not how it works.
Absolutely.
You know,
Oh.
everything, and, somebody out in the audience might be saying, well, wait a minute, this isn't really paranormal. Yes, it is. Because
golly, yes.
paranormal is normal. Supernatural is natural. It wouldn't exist if it weren't.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Exactly.
because, it's like tonight, I'm looking up at the full moon. Now, there's no question. There it is. It's right there.
Mm-hmm.
But on the night of the full moon, who goes outside in the darkness and questions whether or not the moon is still in the sky just because we can't see it?
Right. Just because we can't see it with our naked eyes. So it's there.
Yep.
You just got to believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's right there.
Mhm.
It never
Absolutely.
leaves. We are completely, utterly surrounded by spirit at all times. All of us are. The first thing that my sister April did was freeload on my trip to California because she passed away the night before I left for my trip.
Mm.
And when I got there, I laid down. I took my phone, which was my lifeline to my family after I had been given the news, and I laid it down beside me on the bed. I had to sleep. And I woke up suddenly with my phone making bizarre noises. And I looked over at the screen, and it was completely white. No icons, no nothing. It had never done that. I woke up in a panic thinking, oh, my God, my phone can't die now. Not now.
Not now.
And
Mhm.
I looked at the screen, and 3 huge words were printed on my screen in letters too large that my phone could not create them.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me.
Wow.
She always had a phone right to her face. She might as well have had it stitched on. April was always on the phone with someone. Talk to me. So I got up and sat up in my bed in my cabin on the Queen Mary in Long Beach, California, and I talked to my sister for an hour. And she made it very clear that she wasn't away from me at all. She was right there with me. She was free of pain. She was free to fly. And she's my angel. Had I not had the experiences that I had as a child, there's no guarantee that I would have been able to commune with her in that way, because I wouldn't have been open to it. I wouldn't have been receptive to it. I wouldn't know that she was gone, but not really gone at all.
Mm-hmm.
Like
So
you were
that's
being.
part of our job, is to open the world as we open hearts and let everyone know that there is nothing to be afraid of, that death is only a new beginning. It's a transition from a vessel, and in my sister's case, a vessel that was failing her, and her spirit was bigger than her body could hold, and it was time for her to move on. And now she will touch so many more hearts and so many more lives because she's free to fly. And she will help me in myriad ways on my journey. You know, I felt like a misfit on this planet for decades of my life. And it wasn't until I wrote the story and I told the truth of what happened to our family that my whole entire life changed. And I realized that I was here on a mission. And it's not a holier-than-thou, self-righteous mission at all. I just give people the truth of what I experienced and allow them to process it. And just telling them what happened is enough to open their minds. And once you've been touched by spirit, it is a door that can never be closed again. And even if you turn your back on it, it will reach through at some point and tap you on the shoulder and make its presence known. Once the human mind expands, it does not contract. That is an immutable law.
Very true.
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
Exactly, right?
I know. Well, it's so, if I could just take a moment to say how much I appreciate both of you, for having this opportunity to share not only in our intimate way, the three of us, but for everyone else who this reaches. It's important to me that I have this opportunity. I'm so incredibly grateful to both of you, and to be able to have a truly meaningful intellectual discourse that reaches people who are too often treated like infants by, the world of information and media and, what Hollywood does to stories like ours. They dumb it down. And we don't do that here in the Mystic Cafe, do we? We don't dumb down anything.
No, we do not.
Well, I do, but it's only because I don't always know everything that Travis does. So,
Travis doesn't. Travis dumbs it down himself from time to time. But no, I appreciate that because Andrea,
Yes.
one of the things that we did want is to have open discussion and debate. Like I said, we don't. I don't always agree with the people that we have on. That doesn't mean that I'm wrong or that they're wrong. I like the debate and the discussion. And I'm actually, as we were talking, and Wendy's going to send me a nasty text as I say this, I think it would be really cool to maybe do like a roundtable discussion show one night where we have you on, we have Bill Bean on, we have Nick Redfern and a couple of other people into the extraterrestrial, because we've never done an episode of a show that was about the extraterrestrial theories. We've talked about books that have been written about UFO crashes, Roswell, Kingman, Arizona, Aztec, New Mexico, things like that. But to actually have a discussion going about the extraterrestrial phenomena, because I know there are individuals whose theories and whose feelings about it are very, very, they're very different. There are some that believe that they are quote-unquote aliens from another planet. There are those that believe they are angelic. There are those that believe they are demonic. There are those that believe that they are from us from the future. There are all these different theories. I think it would be very interesting to have an open discussion one night and to have different views expressed with people talking about that. But we do like discussing. We do like dialogue. We like debate. We like opening things up, because I am about enlightenment. I don't even say education. I like enlightening people, taking a subject matter that's out there and actually saying, okay, you know what? It's not one-dimensional. You have to look at it from every side. There are so many different angles and variables and facets of this particular subject that even a 2-hour show doesn't even do it justice. It's something that we have to come back, we have to revisit it, we have to look at it, we have to research it, we have to talk about it. And even then, we're never really going to grasp it. But we might find a little bit more knowledge. We might be able to change our perspective. We might be able to change our outlook. And in changing our perspective and our outlook, we might, God forbid, change our actions and change our behavior.
Yes, and the biggest leap that anyone can take is going from a perception of living in a 3-dimensional 5-sensory realm to living in a multi-dimensional, extra-dimensional universe. That's the big one. And once you make that leap of faith, all bets are off, because it will make you question everything that you've been indoctrinated with. It will make you re-examine every experience that you've had in your life, and it will cause you to become introspective in a way that is healing and holy and sacred.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well,
and one of the things
I'm in. Totally.
Yeah, I am too. I am too. I think it would be a very interesting.
I would love to do that. And you'll have to forgive me if I go in depth in that type of a venue or setting of a roundtable, because Roswell is really old news to me.
Yes.
There's a lot of the people that I work with in this are former astronauts, PhDs, coming out their ears. I walked into my favorite, which is the Star Wars Symposium, which is happening in Laughlin, Nevada. We always go out into the desert and have some extraterrestrial engagement on our off hours when we're not in ET, graduate school for the seminar. And it's just phenomenal to me because I go in there and I just look around and I say, oh my God, there's like more degrees in here than a thermometer has. I mean, these people are just brilliant. And sometimes I feel a little out of my league. And then I say, no, wait a minute. I've had experiences that trump theirs, So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to use the T word.
Oh my God! I was going to say, don't say Trump on this show. Do not say Trump.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Oh my God.
It's okay. I bleeped it out.
What I'm saying. I mean, yes, Roswell is really, really, really old news. And the thing that people need to know is that there's a lot of misinformation that has been put out deliberately. But the real information is also out there. So we'll get into the meat and potatoes of it when we do our roundtable. You just get in touch with me and let me know what night you'd like to do it, and we'll pull it all together.
I will. The other thing I would love to do is to have you and George on the show to discuss In a Flicker. I think it would be, because we actually, ironically, there have been like 2 shows in the past month where Jack the Ripper has come up.
Well, there's a reason for that. And there has been a resurgence around him. And it's because human beings are really, really beginning to, for more than the sake of fantasy or curiosity, are really starting to look at the dark side of human nature. Yes. And that's what this book does. And I would really like you to wait till I get it republished, and then I want you to read it, Travis.
Yes,
I think you will understand. And believe me, it's not for the weak of stomach or the faint of heart. I mean, we really get into it. And George wouldn't let me soften any of the edges of this story at all. It is meant to shock you. It is meant to,
make you think.
As I say when I promote it, from the depths of its darkness emerges the light, the light of comprehension of how a human mind can become so warped. And to me, I had to do it. In fact, I wrote the dedication of the book is to the women of history who make history. And I had to do this story because if you walk up to anybody on the street and say, do you know who Jack the Ripper is? They know that name. He is infamous worldwide. He is an historical figure. If you ask that same individual if they know any of the names of any of his victims, you're going to get deer in the headlights. When you're done reading this book, you'll know about all of the women that paid with their lives to make him infamous.
Oh, yeah.
You let me know as soon as it is available to order, and I will order a copy. Because Jack the Ripper is, again, one of those kind of fascinating subjects that I love to research. Always has been. Roswell was one. Extraterrestrials in general. Jack the Ripper. Always been a fascinating topic that I love to research. So as soon as it's available to reorder, let me know. I will try to be the first person to order a copy.
I'm very, very proud of it. I'm as proud of In a Flicker as I am of the trilogy. It was very difficult to write. There were many times, even when we were doing the final proofread through, when we sat in the same office for 4 days and read every word of the book aloud. There were many places where even after I had worked in that manuscript for 18 months nonstop, there were times that I get so choked up that I couldn't continue reading, and George would very gently pick up where I left off, where I choked. It's a very difficult read emotionally. But if you want an expose on man's inhumanity to woman, this is the book. It will will strike at your heart. It will rip it out of your body and then hand it back to you in a way that inexorably alters your perspective on life in very much the same way, not nearly as gruesome. The trilogy is obviously not nearly as gruesome, but it also has that same expansive effect where it gets your attention and will haunt you for the rest of your life. And you'll never, ever forget the characters. And even though the story itself is based in fact, the very worst of it extricated directly from the annals of history. It's also intermingled with fictional characters. And when it gets to the point, I want a phone call from you, man. When you get to the point where you can't distinguish fact from fiction in that story anymore, I want you to call me, tell me what page you're on. I'll already know.
I will do it. And, it's funny that you were talking about, the gruesome aspect. Of all of the stories, and there's a lot of unsolved murders and and the Black Dahlia and all of these, but Jack the Ripper is one of those stories you really can't make it more gruesome than it actually was. You really can't make it any more gruesome and inhumane than what he did or what this person did.
I didn't, there were parts, this was so disturbing to me that there were things about George is the one, he was like the research king. And at one point he called me one day and he said, you need to see this. I found this and you need to see this. And I'm like, see what, George? He's like, I need to show you a photograph from the murder scene of his last victim. And I said, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. And immediately it pops up on Facebook and right course. In my chat feed with him, our personal message. And I was like, no, because I can't. And he called me and he's like, I want you to look at this. And I said, George, I can't unsee this now. You understand that? My eyes have fallen on this and I can't unsee this now, ever. This image is impaled in my memory for the rest of my freaking life. And it was a picture of his last victim, and she was undistinguishable.
Yeah, you could. She didn't look human. She was totally dehumanized in the crime.
Yeah.
The crimes, the actions became much more savage with each victim, and to the point that she was. It was like every piece of rage that he had was taken out on that one person.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's not light, this is not a book you carry into the bathroom with you. This is not a book that you pick up for 20 minutes while you're having a cup of coffee and then put down. When I tell you that you will be immediately absorbed and engrossed in this story, that is a promise. You won't be able to extricate yourself from it. So you better plan on putting a whole weekend aside where you got nothing else on your plate, because otherwise you're going to be canceling your plans.
Oh yeah.
Well, I am looking forward to reading it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you giving me some time to promote it because I am so very proud of it, and I really do believe that it serves the purpose. It's it's not gruesome. It's not gratuitous violence. It's not just gruesome for the sake of being gruesome. This is a fact. This is what happened in 1888 in Whitechapel in the East End of London. This happened. And the world needs to remember that this happened and not glorify this SOB. Right. Don't give him... oh my God, George and I were both so upset because they were going to build a museum to honor the women, the victims of Whitechapel. And some guy took over the project. And when they opened the museum, who's there a picture of in the front window on the marquee? No mention of any of the women at all, just him.
Yeah.
Just him. And I'm like, oh, my God. Have you people learned nothing? Have you learned nothing?
No.
Well, the women of London went nuts. They went nuts because a lot of them had contributed to the cause.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it made financial contributions to getting this place up and running. And, you know, I haven't followed up on it, but I do know that there was a great deal of social hoopla around the fact that this was promised to not glorify him, but to illuminate what these women went through. And, you know, it really changed my perspective in a lot of ways, too, because, you know, I'm a human being, and I have my prejudices and my judgments, and I have worked hard to overcome them over the course of my life. And part of my my transition, my spiritual transmutation, as it were, was to look at these prostitutes as not prostitutes, but women who had no other choice in life at all but to sell their bodies, because that's all that was valued of them in a society that subjugated and relegated women to the point of poverty. It was really enlightening for me, too, to see how these women lived and how they died.
Well, I just, real quickly, Andrea, I want to say Wendy just texted me, and there is a mutual friend of the three of ours, Susan Bell, is in the chat room, and she wanted to say that she is listening and that she sends her love to you.
I love her so much. Oh, my God. What an incredible, special woman. And I have to thank her, too, because she's the one that brought you into my life, Travis.
She is. We were working. It's so funny. It's been almost 4 years to the month. We all began interacting around May, June, July 2013. Actually, when The Conjuring came out.
Yeah.
Is when we all started acting, because Susan was working on her Beyond Expo event, and I was helping her, and that's how Wendy and I came together, and that's how you and I got to know each other, and that's how Susan and I got to know each other. All of this has come, again, it's very very fortuitous, very serendipitous that this is the timing that you are coming back on the show, because everything, as you said, has, serves a purpose. There's a time and a purpose for everything. To paraphrase the book of Ecclesiastes, there's a time and a purpose for every season. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. Yes, turn, to quote the song. But it has been a very interesting 4 years, and getting to know Susan, and I'm still working with Susan. Susan and I are working on a project right now for Eastern Kentucky, trying to bring the first theatrical film production to Eastern Kentucky since Steven Seagal shot a movie there called Fire Down Below back in the 90s, trying to help revitalize the economy there in Eastern Kentucky, where I'm working with the radio station, and still working with Bill Bean, and still, Wendy and I, 4 years later, here Wendy and I, I was a guest on Wendy's show, and now, 4 years later, Wendy and I are co-hosting shows together.
Yep.
And having you back on the show, it has been an immense pleasure, and do want to have you and George on. So what I want you to do, you said the book is supposed to be available like towards the end of this month. So what, maybe in June we have a couple of Wednesdays, maybe not, if not June, July. Would love to get you and George on. They'll give Wendy and I time to read the book and actually have an in-depth conversation about Jack the Ripper. That would be awesome to be able to do that.
Wonderful. Consider it booked.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
That makes me happy as well. So, but or we could push it into August and actually coincide with the anniversary of some of the murders. If we do that August, what was it? August to October?
Oh, don't start me don't make me pull up dates. But yes, they began in August and they ended in November.
Yes. So, we definitely want to to have you guys on and discuss that. That would be a very interesting show. Thank you so much for being with us tonight, Andrea. It has been a great opportunity for Wendy and I, but it's been a great privilege and a great pleasure. And I know it's been very difficult. The past couple of months have been difficult, and I just want to thank you for taking the time out to join us tonight and talk and let us into your life and let the audience in and know what's going on. Now, real quickly, I have to ask, what are future endeavors? You've got In a Flicker coming out, republished. After that, you've got the movie project. You're not going to tell us what's going on there. I understand that. I'm not going to break you. What beyond that? What beyond that?
I knew you were going to save. I knew you were going to save.
I'm tired. It's been a long day. What are the future projects?
My sister April was a phenomenal writer in her own respect, and she didn't have the self-confidence to put anything out into the world. But as we have emptied out her house and emptied out her storage unit, because she always had more stuff than could fit in one house, she always needed to, we have discovered all of her writing over decades.
Wow.
And my mother is going to meticulously go through all of it. And I am going to publish a book posthumously. It's going to be all of her, what she has put into the world. So it's not lost with her. And I think that it will be, I think that it will be a revelation for many people. We went through, April was always up and down with her weight. She struggled with it since she was in her teens. And, I mean, absolutely beautiful, radiant, ravishingly gorgeous woman. But it was a problem. You know, she would binge eat and then she'd lose weight, and then she'd binge eat and then she'd lose weight. And it was comfort food. It was when she was having difficulties that she would overeat, and then she'd have to lose it. And it was constant. And we found a 5-page essay in a book that we got from the storage unit from Overeaters Anonymous that she had written about her own experience. That 5 pages alone will help so many people. So I feel honored, but I also feel compelled to do this on her behalf for her children. And I also am delighted to announce that it's forthcoming, because it will pin my mother down to doing this work, which will be her summer project, going through all of April's writing.
Wonderful.
So there's more coming from the Perron family, my dears.
Excellent. Well, we will be
Fantastic.
looking forward to that and helping you promote that and have you back on the show to discuss that book as well.
Thank you very much. I so appreciate it, my dear. This has been a delight for me, and I deeply appreciate it to both of you. And my love to Susan, my love to Bella and Larry and all the rest of the tribes that are listening in.
Mm-hmm.
I love you all. You know I do. Anybody that wants to find me, I'm very easy to find. You can follow me on Facebook or hop on into my fan page that I started because I'm a fan of my fans. It's called the Buttercup Brigade.
Mm-hmm.
It's the good deed doer, rose-colored glasses-wearing troop. It's a great place to hang out in cyberspace. It's very uplifting. So I welcome anybody into the tribe. All are welcome.
Now, Bella Smith, she wanted me to send her love to you through the chat.
Oh, she's a wonderful woman, truly wonderful. I have met so many incredible people on my journey. I can't even begin to tell you how humbled and how grateful I am for this, really mystical, mysterious, and mesmerizing excursion that I'm on through this life. But it would mean nothing without the people out there who were reading my work and connecting with me in such a truly meaningful way. And you're both very much a part of that.
Well, we are happy to be a part of this particular journey. There's some journeys I'm not always happy to be a part of. This one I actually like.
Yeah.
And I like the company that I keep on this journey.
Yes, I do too.
Andrea, thank you so much for being with us. We will work with you, getting you and George scheduled up to talk about In a Flicker. I am looking very forward to that.
Wonderful.
And putting our little round table.
Yes, I will work
together.
on that. I will work on that. We will get a roundtable discussion on extraterrestrial biological entities, or whatever you want to call them. And that I think that'll be a very interesting conversation to have.
Don't worry, Andrea. I'll remind him. I'll remind him and keep on it.
Yeah, she will. Oh my God!
You both got me. There's no excuse. You both got me on speed dial.
Yes, we do.
This is true.
Yes,
we do. Very much so. Well, we are going to close it out for this evening. Thank you so much. Next week, Bill Bean will be with us. We'll be discussing Dark Force Delivered and the Mandela Effect, a very interesting conspiracy theory that Bill has become one of the leading voices on, come to the forefront nationally discussing this particular topic. We'll be discussing that next night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Wendy, what song is taking us out tonight?
I believe we will do. Okay, this was just a fun one I found. So it's Cumbia de los Muertos by Ozomati, which it basically means cumbia is courting death dance. It's a courting dance of death. So that's pretty much what the title says and what it is. Sounds good. Sounds very good. Thank you so much, Andrea. Thank you. Travis. Thank you, Andrea. We'll be in touch, scheduling you guys up. Thank you, Wendy. Absolutely. Talk soon. Yep. Bye. All right. Bye. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night.
Solo existe la alegría, es el baile de los queridos del pasado. Mira cómo baila mi mamá, bailando con mi hermano del pasado. Sus espíritus se juntan bailando, y alegría y gozando. Cumbia, cumbia, pero qué buena cumbia, cumbia, pero qué rica cumbia, cumbia, pero qué mira cumbia, cumbia. Solo puede ver los espíritus bailando entre la gente. Si pueden verlos bailando mis hermanos, serviricidos entre los cielos. En los cielos. En los cielos. Of annihilation. Soon as we rid of society's tall errors, as soon as these teenagers don't have to be pallbearers, carry the world's weight, living cradle to grave. Keep your heart pure, innocent,
gonna say hands up. Hands up. Hands up. Hands up. We gotta rock the spot to turn it out. When I say the word, let the sirens out. Say, oh, so Marley. We gotta rock the spot to turn it out. When I say the word, let the sirens out. Say, oh, so Marley. How you feeling, Solana Beach?
Thank you for joining us tonight. You've been listening to Mystic Moon Cafe. Join us every Wednesday from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. On behalf of Wendy Schindler, this is Travis Short saying have a great rest of your week.
And that's all, folks.